Ladies and gentlemen. Frank and Bill. Let's just stare to the left. Okay, good afternoon. We will call the meeting of January 20th, 2015 to order for the La Quinta City Council. Roll call, please, Susan.
Council members Franklin. Here. Osborne.
Here.
Pena.
Here.
Brady.
Present.
Mayor Evans.
Present. This time we have no closed session. If you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll move to public comment, and we will discuss matters that are not on the agenda, and we do have a few requests to speak. So as I call your name to the podium, if you would please give your name and address for the record. You've got about 3 minutes to talk, and I believe there's some lights that will help direct you, but we're happy to entertain your subject matter and questions. Let's start with Shandon Sessions. Is it Shandon?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
you said that right. It doesn't happen too often. My name's Shandon Sessions. I live at 52195 Avenida Herrera, La Quinta, California. My name's Shandon. I'm the Vice President of Organic Solutions of the Desert in Palm Springs. We're one of the licensed facilities out here in Palm Springs and Riverside County. In this 4 years that I've been operating as the Vice President, we worked really closely with the City of Palm Springs and the Riverside County Fire Department and the Palm Springs Police Department to provide a safe and legal spot for our patients to come and access their medication. You know, this is a life-saving medication we're providing for them. We undergo 2 to 3 inspections annually, and we've always been fully compliant, passed with flying colors. We run a very above-board service here. You know, we have a very advanced POS system that tracks everything we grow, everything that's purchased from patients and dispensed to patients. I mean, it tracks every penny in and out of our shop. I believe you guys were provided with our tax revenues for a month and an annual to the City of Palm Springs. Basically, we're kind of seeking out to see how the City of La Quinta would feel about trying to provide a safe access location for the residents of La Quinta. We're willing to help with the ordinance in any way possible, even if we're not one of the ones to obtain a license to operate here. We have a nice grow facility in Palm Springs, and we operate a very above-board business, so if you guys would ever care to come and take a tour or come see how we operate before even considering this matter, we are on board on that 100%. We've done tours for the DA of San Bernardino and the San Bernardino Police Department recently, as they're now getting ready to put an ordinance together to start allowing medical marijuana in their county. So basically, we're kind of here trying to fill out the water and see how the City Council would feel about generating some tax revenue and helping out the city residents at the same time. If you guys have any questions or concerns, I'd be willing to answer them at this time.
Questions by council? No?
No,
We have one other speaker on this matter as well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys so much for your consideration today.
Thank you. And if we can please have James Camper. I like
My
your...
name's James Camper. I'm the owner of Organic Solutions of the Desert. I'm just going to touch on a few things that Shannon didn't discuss. One of the things is, as he said, we are one of the 3 licensed facilities in Riverside County, and Desert Hot Springs and Cathedral City are both getting ready to bring on 3 shops online. So there's more shops starting to open up in the desert, and we would really like to see La Quinta. I was here 3 years ago, and Ms. Evans, you were not the mayor at that time, and I had spoke to the mayor at that about 3 years ago, and they said that possibly when things kind of simmered down between the federal and the state issue, they might consider one. So things have kind of settled down. So we're here to hopefully we can convince you guys and to at least come down, like Shannon said, take a tour, let you see what we're doing. I mean, we've got nothing to hide, you know. We would love to have this medicine available in the eastern end of the valley for our patients. I'm a resident of Quinta and I have been for 20 years. My family's been involved in with Tory Volkswagen. We built that facility, you know, so we very much in touch with La Quinta, and you know, we found that this medicine has done wonders for people, and we'd like to bring it to La Quinta with your blessing and approval. So if there's anything
I do have one question, and
Yes,
I guess
ma'am.
it would apply to both of you. How do you, what kind of feasibility study do you perform when you go into an area in terms of the demographic need or demand of that population, maybe disease warranted, that would constitute benefit of use?
Well, a lot of
for
it
medical
is
reasons?
based on the city. The city sets a lot of the guidelines where we can go or we can't go. Say, for example, Palm Springs basically put us industrial area and that was it. So we didn't have a lot of options where we can open. It's kind of like we open where they say we can open. We open at the time they say we can open. We close when they say we can open. So we do everything according to the city guidelines, you know. Basically what we found, we started with 0 patients, and in 4 years we have now over 15,000 patients, bringing in over $600,000 a month, which to the city is over almost $60,000 in revenue monthly. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure the city of La Quinta wouldn't mind a few extra dollars either, you know. But it's a hard study to do a demographics on, because we've found that there are people, and more people are finding that medicine is working for, in lieu of, and I know you come from a medical background, so in lieu of a lot of prescription meds, they're finding them they'd rather do this than OxyContin, you know, some of their real hard schedule ones. So this is our goal, is to bring this to the valley, this east end of the valley, and bring it so it's done properly and legally and the way it should be done, like every other business. So thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, James.
Appreciate it.
We have one more request to speak, Philip Betancourt.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, I'm honored to be here this evening as this meeting's designated representative of the Planning Commission to be a good and attentive listener. As you know, the Commission has this tradition so that we take back a good representation of the City Council's thinking. As a second matter, and as a relatively newer full-time resident, I wanted to salute the entire city family for the new wellness center. I could not have been more proud to stand with you on Saturday. Everyone that worked so hard on this, and I've decided that getting older is going to be easier if you visit the wellness center regularly. So I salute everyone who did such a great job on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Philip.
Thank you, Philip.
Appreciate it. Anybody else wanting to speak on a matter not on the agenda? If not, we'll move ahead with confirmation of agenda. Any changes by staff?
Well, no change, but I'd like to make an announcement. After 22 years of faithful service, our Jumbotron has burned out. And so going forward, we will not be able to have projection here. The people who service it for us have been scouring eBay to find parts for it because it was built in 1993. So as part of mid-year, we'll be coming forward with some budget proposals to upgrade both that, as well as to have you consider addressing some of the sound deficiencies here in the chambers. So at least going forward for the next couple of meetings, no Jumbotron.
Thank you. Any
Rest
changes
in
by
peace.
any changes by council? No. No? With that, we'll move on to announcements, presentations, and written communications. We do actually have 2 presentations. One, the Public Works Award from American Public Works Association, and another recognition from the American Public Works Association. So if I would ask, please, Tim Jonason to come up, and I'll meet you.
The whole team.
That's it, man.
I'm kidding. Well, first, this was a surprise, not a surprise surprised at receiving it, but I'm surprised that we get to do 2 presentations today to the Public Works team, and this is from the American Public Works Association, and it's a recognition for the infamous roundabout at Eisenhower and Cayce, Sinaloa, in terms of the Merit Award for Streets and Transportation. So I would like to share that with you. I know you had a lot of discussion and opinion from residents, and we have added that fabulous art piece, so that is our first of 2. If you want to say congratulations to the team on that.
As you know, it evolved over the years, and I think what we were able to deliver to the Cove community was the best possible project. I think it's a shining example of what we can do.
I agree. And anytime anybody makes a comment about that, I just remind them, would you want a traffic signal in your front yard? And the answer is no.
Right.
So we needed to do something for the resident safety, and that was definitely an accomplishment. This is not an unfamiliar team up here. The Public Works Association also has recognized the Public Works Awareness Project for the City of La Quinta for the outreach program. This is the student outreach program, and this is something that we've received here since 2008. The city's Public Works Department actually established a student outreach program so that La Quinta High School students that are pursuing interest in government positions have an opportunity to participate and learn about the Public Works Department. And the Southern California chapter of the American Public Works Association has once again recognized the student outreach program. And I'd like to present yet another plaque to add to the compliment. And if you want to share a little bit about how many students we had this year and recognize your team.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Evans, as well as the rest of the City Council for support of the program. We had 15 students this year that came over from La Quinta, primarily from La Quinta High, but we had them from other high schools also. And what this program is, it's a 3-week internship, not paid, where the students have volunteered their time to come down and spend a week roughly in each of our divisions learning something about maintenance. And we have James Lindsay from maintenance representing that staff, as well as development. Ed Wimmer and Brian McKinney have shared that role at different times, and Daniel Valenzuela works over there as well. And then also learning something about engineering services, which is the capital improvement program. Tommy Sanchez helps them learn about what's required in issuing a permit at the public counter, so that's always interesting. And then Leonard St. Sauver takes them out to the field and shows them what goes on in our construction world. So they get a taste of everything. Maria Casillas is the glue. She programs. We tapped into her teacher background to get the students to the right class at the right time. It's very important. But the reason why we go through all of this is basically twofold. You may or may not be aware that there is actually a shortage of engineers, in particular civil engineers in this country. We have a lot of challenges coming up in the next 25 to 30 years. I'm sure you all heard about our infrastructure, the bridges breaking down and so forth, and we need more students that are proficient in math and science to go into this as a field in college after they graduate from high school. So we're trying to catch them before they choose a major so that they can think about engineering. And then the second reason is just to raise general awareness of what we do here at the city, get them interested in civil service as a potential career field going forward. I hate to say it, our staff isn't getting any younger here, and we'd like
None of us are.
We'd like the best and the brightest to think about working for the city when they graduate from college. So that's our interest there. So
what time frame were these students here this session?
they were here from basically the month of July, end of June through July. So we get them out of here before it gets too hot, because there is some field time. So that's when they're here.
So the next group will get to experience the permit center experience with the whole customer service center.
Absolutely.
Right? You'll have to add that to the curriculum. I guess.
Absolutely. That'll make development maybe one
And
more popular.
And technology will be yet another step ahead next year for the next class, right?
Absolutely. The technology, we see them gravitating. They love the traffic engineering segment because that's when they get to mess with all the computers and the signals.
Is that what happened on 47th and Avenue? Just kidding. All right. Congratulations, team. Thank you very much. You make us proud, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Never get tired of bragging about our city. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Move the consent calendar. Thank you.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have 2 business session items this evening. The first is select a representative for Coachella Valley Water District's Joint Policy Committee. And this was one that was overlooked when we were doing all of our commission assignments. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
How often do they meet and when do they meet?
They meet only a few times a year as needed, so there's no set time that I can tell you.
Yeah, I think when Don mentioned, I think he only had maybe 2 meetings.
Right.
The whole
time
3
that
or
he
4
was-
years he was, yeah,
Yeah,
We do
it's
have one
not a
scheduled
very
for
demanding-
March 19th, so there is one
Good.
coming up.
good. Well, is
I'd be
your...
happy to continue.
Then I'll make a motion that we appoint the mayor to this
Second.
position.
There's a motion and second for Mayor Evans to continue in this, the mayor role to continue in this capacity. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Business session item number 2, appropriate. Yes, we should appoint an alternate. Thank you, Christie.
I'd like to do that.
Okay. I'll make a motion to appoint Christy Franklin as alternate.
Second.
There's a motion and second for Christie Franklin to serve as alternate. Please vote. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Christine. Business session item number 2, appropriate funding, add the library improvements project to the fiscal year 2014-15 capital improvement plan, and approve a professional services agreement with Coachella Valley Engineers Incorporated. Staff report. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, honorable council members. If you can believe it, the library is almost 10 years old. In fact, it will be this September. To commemorate that event, we've planned for a 10th-year anniversary celebration at the library, but we are recommending that we do a little bit of renovation work, both interior and exterior, to the library. As you are aware, this library, the city's library, is one of the most popular libraries in Riverside County. And it basically needs some help interior to it. New carpet and painting is mostly what we're looking at, but we also have a need to refresh the restrooms and a couple of the other interior areas. We're also going to take a look at the drainage around the building that, much like the Wellness Center, had some pooling water against it, that we saw some water intrusion in the September 8th storms. And then on the exterior, what we're going to do is basically give it a new slurry seal and expand the parking lot to the north for 2 reasons. First of all, in high demand, it'll give us extra space for the library and the wellness center, but also it will help facilitate the development of the city-owned lots, currently owned city lots, to the west that are proposed for the Villas at Old Town project. So staff has put together already a professional services agreement with CVE Engineers. They are a local firm that is already doing the civil engineering work for the Old Town, the Villas at Old Town project. And so in order to be able to design this project by this spring, in order so that we can bid it and construct it by the end of the summer, we're proposing to go with them as a sole source contract to them. The breakdown of the individual budgets is given in the staff report. We also have a couple of exhibits that we can talk about if you want more detail on that. At this point, that concludes my staff report. Myself and Ed Wimmer, in charge of capital projects, are here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tim. Questions? Yes,
Questions?
John.
Tim, as far as the use goes, was any input obtained from the users on things that they might want to see or things that might be important in helping that facility even improve even more?
I'll ask Edie to address that.
Thank you.
Not users as much as library staff.
Okay.
We've had a lot of conversations with library staff about some of the things that we would need to do. The other thing is, with the chamber moving out, that gives us more space available for programs and activities at that location too. So we have a lot of opportunity for more activities and services to be held there. In some cases, because of our attendance and popularity of the facility, it's just wearing. The carpet's wearing, and so it just needs a little bit of work on the inside in particular. Restrooms need some work, so that's what we're looking at for that facility. The programming space seems to work pretty well,
Okay.
And by being able to add space, that will be helpful.
Okay, and that was basically what the question was, have you contacted staff? Because they'll probably hear from the users as well, too, so.
They do, and so they're just anxious to be able to use some of the space that has not been available to them, so
Right.
I think we'll be able to do some new things there.
Good.
Edie, when you're done.
I'm done.
Thank you. Edie, in regards to that place, that area of the library within the north end that Chamber of Commerce was using, is some of this going to that area to change that area to be more useful to the?
Yes, it will. It'll include carpet in that area, and that area is getting painted now so that we can reuse it for programming and activities in the next month or so. But yes, that whole space, we're talking about the interior of the entire library, getting paint and fresh carpet and along with looking at some of the drainage issues that occurred along the north side of the building.
Okay, thank you. And thank you. And in regards to the drainage issue, Tim, with the storm we just had back in September, was there quite a bit of leakage from the roof? I mean, was there a substantial amount of cost associated with leakage from the roof? I should put it that way.
I'm not aware of any leakage from the roof. I heard that there was a similar problem to what the Wellness Center experienced, which maybe Steve can elaborate on.
We worked closely with the insurance people, and they came out and investigated. The roof was minor. It was just replacement of some ceiling tiles. Most of the damage was through the wall section of the water building up along the walls and coming in underneath the foundation.
Okay.
So not necessarily from the roof.
Wow.
I think they replaced maybe 8 ceiling tiles.
Okay.
And that was the extent of the
Not too
damage.
bad. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, Christie?
Yes. I have some parking lot questions. At one time, we had discussed, not necessarily openly in council, but had talked about photovoltaic on the roof. Are we going to do that on these, in the parking?
Not with this project. We're still looking at that. The existing, we're proposing to use the existing shade structures. They are rated for photovoltaics, and anything we add, we'll make sure can handle photovoltaics in the future when we're ready to do that.
So we're going to continue the north-south instead of going east-west? I thought going east-west, we picked up more parking.
That's going to be part of CVE's charge, is to figure, when we looked at realigning the shelters and also incorporate, it did some things that, because of the way that the lot is graded and so forth, you would end up with some kind of awkward parking stalls, because
Okay.
you'd be reorienting the slope that was created for the drainage, and so, and then the cost of doing it, we were conscientious of that, wanted to keep it down, so we're proposing to reuse the existing shade structures. I don't know if you noticed at the opening of the Wellness Center, but one of them was painted. Mm-hmm. It looked a lot better. So we'll look to do something like that as part of this project.
Okay, and then CVE, is that David Turner?
It is.
Okay. And let's see, I have another question here. It says it's anticipated that approximately $350,000 to $400,000 of the parking lot improvement costs will be offset by a developer contribution. What does anticipated mean?
Well, it's part of the MOU that still needs to come back to City Council. It will in the near future, but that's the range that we're talking about to offset the fact that they're not providing, as much parking as they would need to with their project.
Okay, and so is this required, or are we asking for him to do something gratuitously?
No, this is be required as part of the, as I understand, as part of the entitlement of the project, unless Johnson could speak to it.
Truly.
Exactly.
As was originally proposed in the conversations that we had with Mr. Marvin, there was a portion of property that we would not be selling to him if we went forward as being proposed before you this evening. We identified a number of stalls that that area could accommodate. We then approached Mr. Marvin with a fee in lieu option to where he needs that parking, obviously, to be able to park his property. But within the village, we do have an opportunity for a fee in lieu to be offered. And he has, in principle, agreed to that amount that we've identified to him, but it's based on the number of stalls. So since it's not fully designed and we're looking at having to shift and redesign based on the concept that was brought forward a few months ago, we've given a range of, I think, 350 to 400,000 in the report because we need to confirm exactly how many spaces and then work that out with him. But it is recognized in the draft update to the purchase and sale agreement and memorandum of understanding that's currently being reviewed and will be before him and then subsequently brought to you after that.
So if he agrees to this, then the additional parking really isn't for the library, in essence.
Well, it would be a shared parking lot, public lot, very similar to like what we have further to the west in the village there next to Stuffed Pizza. It would not be, none of the stalls would be officially designated for the villas at Old Town.
They would or would not?
They would not.
Okay.
We've told him that we would not be designating any spaces. There are a couple of potential ADA spaces that would be adjacent to his proposed building, but there would not be any signs put up that restrict parking exclusive to the villas at Old Town.
Okay, all right, thank you. I just have one last question. When the when the chamber moved out, what square footage addition does the library have with those? Well, there would be the conference room and that's theirs all the time, plus the office space.
It's about 1,500 square feet.
Okay.
It's a nice size area for activities.
Combined? Or just their office space was 1,500?
Their office space, where the chamber was located, was about 1,500 square
Conference
feet.
room was a multi-use.
Yeah. So, but you still, the conference room is for the library's use all the time now?
Certainly, yes. Well,
Okay.
and other programs
Right.
that we have, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
Any questions, Robert?
Just a quick question about ADA improvement that are part of this project. Can you briefly tell us what will be done for that?
Well, again, Steve Hallett probably has the details on exactly what needs to be done to the interior of the building in order to reach ADA compliance. While he's coming up, though, I can tell you the parking lot itself, we would be addressing pedestrian access through it. We'll check all ADA paths of travel, but primarily what we're trying to do is create that connection that we talked about to the village area from the campus in order to to facilitate connection so people can walk to both places, basically. Beyond that, I would defer to Steve on the actual ADA improvements.
The majority of ADA improvements have already been completed. We did those fairly recently with the restroom alignments of the fixtures and also handrails outside the building. And then also making sure all the placards are in place that also have Braille on them as well. I think the only remaining items relate to the flooring issues. We have a natural stone tile that's in there that at times can create a trip hazard. So that's one of the things we're looking at with putting in new carpet in the facility is to just, whereas it looks nice, it's really not functional. It makes a lot of noise and it does create a little trip hazard. So that's probably part of the ADA improvements as well.
Thank you.
And I just have one question. Our proposed approval and/or progression to make this happen, what if the Old Town expansion is either delayed or does not come to fruition? Will this impact this from a budgetary standpoint if there are anticipated DIF fees?
I don't know that we're not relying on DIF fees to build this project, if that's what your question is. This is all being built out of the library fund reserves. So there's no development impact fees proposed for funding the project.
So will there be any I guess my question is, what happens if Old Town expansion is delayed? Will that matter in this project since this is concentrated specifically on the library component, even though the parking and the walkability?
Well,
in terms of timing, since we're pretty aggressive in getting this done, since there's a kind of a co-op with CD Engineering.
Yes, well, for one thing, we should know more by the time we're ready to bid this project in the spring. So we have a few months to work that issue out with the MOU and the purchase and sale agreement. If at that time, if we still haven't reached an agreement for the development of those lots, then the library fund would be either fronting the cost, or we would have to identify another source of funds to front the cost until such time as we can be reimbursed for those, you know, for adding parking to those to the vacant lots. So I guess more to follow on that as we get closer to actually bidding the project.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Comments?
Okay, comments. I'll take comments.
Thank you very much. The total price here, approximately $1.2 million, is a pretty substantial figure. And I can appreciate, you know, upgrading the paint and the carpet, and then from the drainage standpoint, and the idea of what you're looking at from the parking makes a lot of sense. But 1.2 million is still a lot of money. And I mean, just part of it, the design and inspection, there's 150,000 there. And that's a lot of money for painting, you know, and carpeting. So I can appreciate where the money's coming from with the library fund. And we've got those funds available to use. But I certainly would like to look at some of these library services for North La Quinta, whether we have a bus or something that provides some of these services to North La Quinta as well. My concern here is that we are continually to reinvest in our facilities in the Cove area with the new wellness center, and there's almost $5 million in the last 2 years we put into the Cove. I understand where the money comes from, and I'm very proud of our new wellness center. But at some point in time, we need to invest in community services in North La Quinta. And I know we've talked about it, and I would hope something's going to come to fruition some point in the next year or two. But I mean, there's a little rumbling going on. I know we've heard it a little bit here and there. It will only get bigger if we don't do something. And so I can appreciate what we're doing, and I'm good with it. I think we're spending too much money. But I'm good with what we're doing and where it's coming from. But at some point in time, please make this investment in North La Quinta. Thank you.
Any other comments? I think it'd be great to have a mobile library that might stop there. And that could be something versus, you know, anytime we look at a permanent structure that requires maintenance, because that's a lot of this is that infrastructure and 10 years old, and how you have to go back and be able to properly have capital monies to maintain and not counting the operations costs, is somehow coordinate, like the museums coordinated with the library and different programs, establish something in North La Quinta that can help maximize the efficiencies of what we have in the resource. So we're not duplicating resources to that extent, but still providing better access. John?
In regards to that, I agree with you, Lee. I think that we need to do some more up in North La Quinta, but perhaps we could utilize some of the schools that we have up there and help fund their library needs and be able to use their libraries, maybe some off hours as well too, so kids that need to access the library can go to either one of the schools there rather than having to come down to this library. Something like that. Maybe we can work with the school district to provide additional funds, provide something that maybe keeps the libraries up there open a little bit longer or something like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. The problem there we have is we've been trying for 6 months to meet with the school district and have yet to find a time to make an appointment. We don't even have any dates that we're looking to see if it'll work on the calendar yet. So for whatever reason, I think it's a great idea. Hopefully at some point we can meet with the school district.
Perhaps the mayor can write a letter under her signature to school district officials asking for that meeting and saying it's time that we sit down and meet on some issues of mutual concern.
That'd be great.
I'm happy. Happy to sign that one. Any collaboration is good in my point.
Absolutely.
Robert, comment?
Yeah, I just have a comment in regard to making whatever we have here more accessible. I agree with Lee. any type of transportation that we can provide so that all this facility can be experienced by everyone in La Quinta would be great, because these are great facilities that otherwise we don't want to see underutilized. The museum is a great facility, and I know the La Quinta Historical Society have done everything possible to invite people down, visit, put up programs. So this is part of an holistic approach where everybody in La Quinta can access our facilities. In regard to the budget, I think what you're asking for, Lee, is more of a breakdown of where this money is going to go than what we have currently?
Well, we spent $5 million on this 10 years ago, and we built a beautiful facility. But to put another $1 million into it within 10 years and is a lot of money, and much, much more than just paint and carpeting. But again, these are library funds we're using, and that's what it's there for. So I can understand that. I just don't want to spend $150,000 for consultants if we don't have to, you know, on something as simple as what we're trying to do.
That's a good point. However, we do have the funds, and we also have the funds to cover the difference if that parking lot mitigation fee doesn't come in, because we do have some surplus left even after using these funds. So the money is there to complete the project properly and on time.
Like the Quimby did for wellness.
Just the Quimby did for once, yeah.
Christy, any final comments?
No.
Matters before the council.
I move to appropriate funding, add the library improvements project to the fiscal year 2014-2015 capital improvement plan, and approve a professional services agreement with Coachella Valley Engineers, Inc.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. That concludes our business session. There are no study session items this evening, so we'll move on to reports and informational items. And Christy, let's start with you.
At our last Conservancy, the Mountains Conservancy meeting, the Friends requested the Conservancy's consent to sell and transfer about 1,100 acres in numerous parcels that had been obtained with Conservancy grants to the Bureau of Land Management as part of a BLM land exchange. That was basically the meat of our meeting, so to speak. We elected a chair and a vice chair, but that was the only discussion that we had with respect to transfer of land.
Does it? Okay. John.
Animal Campus was my first meeting. It was a very interesting board meeting, very interesting discussion on animals and the use of the shelter and the use of their facilities. No real report other than they're going to look into how many animals and under what circumstances animals have to be euthanized. But the good news is they've had great adoptions over the last month. And they're going to be doing another adoption fair at the Riverside County Day Festival. But I believe last year they had 160-some animals adopted.
They did an enormous
amount. The shelter was basically, you know, at a low inmate rate.
Holding rate.
Maybe for the first time ever.
Hotel guest rate. Thank you. Lee.
Yes. I attended the CVAC Public Safety Commission for the first time. Great meeting. One of the items they talked about is they've got DUI workshops for kids in high school to help them understand these programs, and working with the police departments and sheriff's department. Also, they talked about the brand new Prop 47.
Oh.
That is really going to be a problem. With Prop 47, anybody busted with any drugs, including heroin, is a misdemeanor. And no matter how many times you're caught with it, it's still a misdemeanor. And the other part of that is that any theft of items below $950 in value is a misdemeanor. Again, as many times as there may be. So, you know, I had some real concern at that point regarding Highway 111. So anybody shoplifting on Highway 111, first, if somebody's caught shoplifting, the store has to hold that person. From what I was told, the police department would come in, issue a ticket, and that's it. So you can shoplift as often as you want and get caught as often as hopefully they do, but it's still only a misdemeanor. And it's a retroactive, so anybody that's in jail today for theft or these drug possession will be reanalyzed and let out. So, I mean, you could steal a gun under $950 and it's only a misdemeanor. So Mike Hester was there, the new DA, and he talked about this, and they're going to be talking to folks up in Sacramento to try to bring in some new legislation to tighten this up a little bit. But definitely got some concerns on Highway 111 and the shoplifting up there. One thing that Mike did talk about, with the changes in the DA's office, he's going to bring back Sue Stedding. And Sue Stedding is going to come back into the DA's office and run the Indio office. Oh, yeah, wow. To have some of that experience brought back. So I thought that was a great idea. Sue's a great lady. There was a little bit of talk regarding from the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission that AB 109 folks that are let out, the rescue mission has a program to bring some of those folks in and kind of rehabilitate and get back into jobs and whatnot.
Maybe they can add the Prop 47 repeat offenders. They can do group classes.
Who knows, yeah. That Prop 47 is going to be a real problem. So hopefully we can get some help out of Sacramento to tighten up a little bit. I mean, regarding guns and some of these other drugs. So, but it was a good meeting. I was glad to be part of it. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Robert.
All right. So to start out, I attended the League of California City Riverside Division, and that was an interesting meeting. Was my first one. There was a presentation on the real estate market conducted for the Riverside County. One interesting fact is that right now in the entire Riverside County, 17% of the homes are underwater, or meaning their loan is upside down, versus the 40% that was in 2012. So that's good news. I did attend my first meeting with the City Chamber Exchange. It was a great meeting. We had covered a lot. Some of the notes from it, they have gone through a repositioning, of course, with the move. They stabilized their stuff, and their sales are up in advertising and also in membership. I do count a net gain of 15 new members. And they say they are small and mighty. That's correct, David? Yeah, small and mighty. They are now, the new maps are out. They didn't have it at the time of the meeting. They promised they were going to have it for the Humana, and sure enough, I picked this up at the breakfast at Humana, so that we had on Monday. Well, there are some good news they're on pace for over 150 cars for the car show that is coming up, so that's going to be huge. We talked about a little bit about the Taste of La Quinta, which is coming up on March 14, and some ideas also for future leveraging of that brand. They also talk about restarting the Village Fest at some point, and the food truck event that is also in the making, so great stuff coming up. What else? What else did I do? Okay, the Riverside County Transportation Commission, that was my first meeting, and I tell you, it's quite an interesting commission to serve on. I can give you the short version because, of course, those agenda, they're not short otherwise. Of course, sometimes the concern is about how the Coachella Valley gets the fair cut on these funds. We did approve the projection for the 2014-15 projection for an increase in town fee of $4 million. They say that the economy is doing better. They see sales, taxes going up, so that they're comfortable in projecting a raise in those funds. And so they had us look over the 15-16 budget, which will raise Measure A from 167 million to 170 million, and local transportation funds from 81.5 million to 83. So good news on that, because of course this is a result of the economy doing better. Mm-hmm. There was a presentation about cap and trade. The executive team there is doing a good job in trying to identify what this means, right? There's some information here that I'd like to share with you. All this, of course, these funds are in place to mitigate anything that goes on in the area of under disadvantaged communities, right? And to the east of our valley, we have some that definitely fits in that description. There are 19 indicators of what constitute a disadvantaged community. So they're still working out what disadvantages are, and the state has formed a state-oriented strategic growth committee, which has 0 elected officials to manage these funds. So there's a lot of competition for these funds, but Riverside County is well positioned to receive some of those. And that concludes my meetings, my report. On a personal note, the Riverside County Transportation Commission, we don't get, during the roll call, you don't get called by name, you get called by city, and that was a great moment for myself. So let's say when the...
Did CVAG Transportation?
CVAG Transportation did not meet, and will meet this coming month.
Very good. And CVEP's tomorrow.
CVEP, yeah, CVEP is tomorrow. I wonder what we're going to talk about.
Well, and Robert did make the league division meeting on our behalf, and it was in Menifee, correct?
Menifee, yes,
So
yes.
thank you for making that drive.
You're very welcome.
Yes.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. Okay, and none of my CVAG meetings have occurred. They'll be starting up again in February. In terms of the Greater Palm Springs Convention Visitors Bureau, you know, I've got the honor of being chair in that, which is exciting. They did the end-of-year report, and I'll bring in the business plans that were produced by the team there. Outstanding information that represents all of what happened and the contributions of the hospitality industry throughout the valley. Occupancy was up not only in December, but year over year for the entire year, which is great. There was a presentation that we will be hearing about in the not-too-distant future, and that's about a jazz festival. It's called Jazz at the Merv, and it will be happening at the Merv Estate on November 7th and 8th. Their plan is to do kind of a reception event on Saturday night, and anticipating upwards to 4,000 attendees. Okay, make note, yeah, less heart palpitations, on the 8th throughout the day. So initial discussions, they are just launching their sales and sponsorships, so hence we'll get that. I've already received a couple follow-up phone calls, but they did present that to the hospitality industry for sponsorship and information. So let's see, and with that, there is a large convention that's visitor related. I believe it's a writers group that will be coming to the La Quinta Resort in February. So I'll have the opportunity of just at least greeting them to the city, and that's Scott White and his team doing that. So with that, we'll move on to departmental reports.
Madam Mayor, Manager's Office has one late-breaking news. But we'll start off with the first one, which is in your agenda package about the East Valley Economic Group, EVEG. Basically, since February of 2014, there's been a group of East Valley council members and Supervisor Benoit and others meeting. And the discussion has been, what can the cities do in conjunction with the county to replace the enterprise zone? This has taken many twists and turns involving CVIP and others, and on January 8th, Councilmember Pena and I attended a meeting, and Mr. Osborne was also to attend, but he was ill that day. And at that meeting, unveiled to us was a proposal to form a joint powers authority involving the cities of Indio, Indian Wells, Palm Desert, Coachella, La Quinta, the county, hopefully Imperial Irrigation District, possibly CVWD, and the tribes, to basically have a presence of an economic development agency here in the East Valley. And the thought further is that the county would basically staff the office with EDA staff, and then from that effort, they would move forward to put together a business plan and go forth to do economic development here in the East County. We bring this forward to you because shortly there will be, and you have a letter that was handed out this afternoon that we received today from Supervisor Benoit and the City of Indio with a draft plan which is included in the agenda report, as well as then they will be coming forth with a draft joint powers agreement. At this point, the cost of entry for the City of La Quinta would be $10,000, and the specific tasks that would be underway is yet to be defined. So just wanted to put this in as a heads up, get any thoughts and ideas. Councilmember Pena certainly has a wealth of information on this, and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? There's comments, iterations, lots of things.
Okay. I'm going to have to, get a little clear on some points here. So the East Valley Coalition, has that ever been established or no? John?
Not on a formal basis. I think it was more of an informal basis.
Right.
Where the cities and the county discuss basically planning issues, things that we can do on a cooperative basis, at least in the past.
Right.
In the recent future, Lee might be able to answer that.
Well, we never really got to anything. You know, we had the one meeting a couple months ago, and I think this new is what John Benoit's answer to that problem was. And I think he did a great job, and I think at this investment level, something we can definitely, put into our budget without any pain.
Okay. The problem I have with I don't have a problem with the $10,000. That's startup, but what's down the road? What's going to be our commitment down the road, number one? Number two, we still have a CVEP commitment. And CVEP seems to sort of play into this, but I don't think we really know that right at this point in time yet.
Right.
I think we're jumping, it appears to me that we're jumping to a JPA without a real thought-out business plan. So there are good words, let's put it this way, in this proposal. But things have to be more concrete for me. This is all kind of, give me your $10,000 pie in the sky and we'll do that. And then throughout this, it talks about we're going to leverage this and leverage that, and that's okay. But so is the county, so this is the question. CVEP's already in the enterprise zone office, right?
Right.
So,
yeah.
okay, and they have 3 employees there, I believe. CVEP does. So, and then John in this talks about being in that office, and yet they're also going to have an office in Indio. I just thought, there's a lot of good wording here, but I thought it was confusing to me. So, and one of the things that CVEP was going to do, that they're providing the office space and office support, Indio's serving as a fiscal agent, but also in here, it does state somewhere that Indio's going to have, provide an office too. So I don't know, the whole thing didn't seem to gel to me.
If I can, the office space is owned by La Quinta, owned by Indio. Indio owns that building.
Okay.
And so the rent would be being paid to the city of Indio.
Okay.
And in regards to
Okay, that's what that was.
Riverside County, Tom Freeman has handled a lot of that economic development for Riverside County in the West End. And he's done a heck of a job. He really has, bringing the Chinese in for their investment into the county and a number of other programs. And and John Benoit and his office, along with Tom Freeman and the county, they've been very proactive from an economic development standpoint in bringing people to the county to let them see what we can do here. And there's some great stuff on the West End, and I would love to bring some of that out here on the East End. And so I think, based on what I've seen in the past with Riverside County, I'm for it. I think they bring a lot to the table. Some of the items that you mentioned here in the staff report are some great areas. I know in the East End, again, like I said in the past, to me, it's about jobs. Getting jobs in here that pay $20 to $50 an hour instead of $10 to $15 an hour. We need better jobs. And as the city of La Quinta has seen in the past, any of those facilities out in Indio, Coachella, Riverside County area, management and owners, they live here in La Quinta. They spend their money here in La Quinta. So again, I have faith in John Benoit's office from what I've seen him do in the past on the West End with Tom Freeman, and hopefully the opportunity to have them bring it here to the East End, I think it holds a lot of promise.
Okay, and they talked about a small business loan program. They were going to market that.
Right.
Isn't CVEP doing that? in their office in India?
Yeah, I
That's
know.
what Zeke is doing.
Yeah, so I imagine Riverside County is then going to take that over. I don't know if Zeke is staying or not. We'll find that out tomorrow.
Right.
You know, in the
I imagine-
CVEP meeting, you know, they talk about the people they've let off. I don't know who that is.
Big reduction.
You know, what positions would include. But I would guess.
So if we took, where would we be, Lee, if we took CVEP out of the picture here?
Out of East Indios.
Out of this whole thing, just.
Then Riverside County and the
rest
EDA be running it, and we'd be a member of the JPA.
Okay, without CVEP's involvement.
Correct.
All right, that's all I have right now.
And if I just might add to that as well, too, I think that they were just trying to set the framework to see if there might be interest in moving forward to get more information, flesh this out a little bit on the agreement. So I think they wanted to move in a rapid pace to see if there is agreement. If not, then they would pursue it. So correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, that was that's basically what they talked about. So I know there's a lot to be worked out in here. This is only a draft agreement. You know, I think they would get input from all of the other cities. They simply wanted to get something in front of the cities to be able to move forward.
So I'm sorry, that brings up another question.
Sure.
So in the budget that they're proposing, what happens, let me pick somebody different than that. When Indian Wells decides not to contribute, Coachella decides not to contribute, then are we up in the ante for the rest of the folks that might want to jump in here? I'm
We
just
don't know
asking.
yet. Yeah.
I mean, there's history.
We don't know yet. I mean, we've got $100,000 we put into the economic development budget for the city of La Quinta. And to put 10,000 into this would seem to be a prudent investment to work these issues out before. Yeah, I mean, you know, if something changed, all of a sudden they're going to raise it to 50,000?
Yeah. If we were to do this, and I know this is not a business session item, but if we did see our way to doing this, I'd have to be very much more comfortable with the caveat that everybody on here chips in. And we're not going to do this. That happened before when we put the caveat on with CVEP.
And the county covered it. The county covered
No,
Coachella's 40.
CVEP covered it.
The CVEP on that matching grant program.
Yeah, they covered it.
They covered the Coachella's
CVEP,
40.
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Robert, any comments before I?
Yeah, I mean, my comments, obviously, we know that CVEP is now cutting back. They have, they claiming in the email that we received today from Mr. Wallace, that because of the cuts of the cities and the cuts of the private sector, they're down $494,000 since 2012, and now that's why they're having all this shortcoming, and they're trying to keep up service. When you do economic development, it is really important to decide what constitutes success, because obviously, I agree with you, we need the jobs. And in a year of economic development, and I did meet with Tom Freeman a few times back in 2012, and obviously it takes time. And when you want to market a region, it takes time, and it takes much more than $228,000. I like the idea. I think the letter we received from Supervisor Benoit today does clarify the use. Having someone that is an economic development individual dedicated to the East Valley, that has value. But with, like Council Member Franklin said, what's in the future? I mean, what's next year? We need to get that in the agreement. So what are the metrics? How do we measure success? How do we measure improvement, or how do we measure what we achieved, so that we are not going to have to justify the existence of this new joint power every year, because that's what Tom Fleming used a lot of his time going around justifying the existence of CVEP, and I think that was a waste of his time, in all fairness. So these are my comments. I have concerns that we get into something that we know we cannot measure without a plan, without a more worked out agreement that we have right now. So those are my comments.
Yeah, I think that we're putting the cart before the horse just a little bit. So there was a twofold reason for starting the discussions. Number one, some of the East Valley cities, and it wasn't necessarily La Quinta, didn't feel they were getting what they needed from CVEP in their economic development. Number two, the enterprise zone was going away at the same time. So those businesses they were trying to attract for those tax credits expired. So yet they needed another vehicle to say, how are we still going to get these people here? Let's use some other cities and, you know, form an entity. With the changes in CVEP right now, and they're nearly $500,000 deficit, I think that this is the time to take this step back, saying CVEP needs to be repurposed. It needs to be analyzed because of how it was structured to do what it was supposed to do. It's not serving that purpose anymore. It's not the super chamber it used to be, in my opinion. The workforce piece is working, but they're still needing skilled workforces for better paying jobs to keep kids in this area. And, you know, I think before they look at replacing a CEO, they really need to assess the entire aspect of what purpose CVEP serves, because this is a mini version of CVEP in the East Valley with county assistance. And if that didn't work with, let's get an office, get a person, let's help small businesses, that wasn't working with the exception of the iHub, and that was a lot of money that Palm Springs put into that project versus true efforts of just accretion from CVEP. Those are things, when you talk about the economic development budget, I'd rather see $10,000 be used to help a new business do something in La Quinta to help promote themselves, or signage or something like that that is tangible, that actually gets their doors open and it's there and it's happening, versus let's add to an infrastructure that we're not sure what's going to happen or what the goals are when you talk about metrics. And then again, with CVEP just looming out there in limbo and in a deficit, forming another JPA right now, those owners of the businesses are going to move here regardless if this is formed, because they're doing it now. So, I mean, I like the idea of working together. I'm not ready to jump to a JPA by any way, shape, or form until we find out. We're coming up on budget. CVEP is going to be around the corner trying to figure out how to survive, versus do we take the hard stance and say, let's assess it first, and maybe it gets scaled down, maybe it blows up, maybe it goes east-west, and this is now the new thing on both sides. I don't know, but that I think it's still too early. Not a bad concept, still too early, but I'm not sure a JPA. I think want to move into that.
My concern is that there's companies out there like Ernie Ball that produce guitar strings, and he has made it known very well that he is looking to move his operations out of the state. And whether this, because of the loss of the enterprise zone.
Okay.
Now, whether something like this would make him stay, I have no idea. But something like this is going to at least have that conversation with him to say, hey, we understand that the state of California did this to all of us, but what are your challenges and what can we do to help? Obviously, we can't write a check, but at least we have the conversations with the businesses out in the East Valley to help them grow in some manner or form. What's economic development going to be these days? I mean, we had our little meeting on Saturday. I don't know what economic development is going to be. Because again, economic development in the past was, hey, we have an RDA, here's a check. We don't have that anymore. And the cities and the counties are going to have to work together more so than they ever have in the past for economic development. If another Ernie Ball comes to the valley, another manufacturer, and they want to set up in the county or wherever over in the East End, what's our role going to be? And that's a discussion we need to have.
Right.
What's our role going to be? What can we offer?
Or what do we want to offer?
Exactly. And perhaps we need to have that discussion on what we would want in this type of entity, and then go to them and say, all right, here's what we're looking for. Right. And I think Supervisor Benoit's office would be open to that.
Absolutely.
As much as the other cities would be as well. You know, Indian Wells,
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea. Have a study session on what we're looking at from an economic development standpoint. Again, when we discussed it Saturday, and Wells Marvin mentioned it, my question is, well, what does economic development mean for us? Is it simply help a retail outlet become some more sales from a retail standpoint? Or again, you know, and I don't want to keep pounding the table on jobs, but Coachella Valley took a huge hit when construction industry went down. And I would hate for Coachella Valley to be in the same position 10 years from now, that if we lose construction, we lose the city of, La Quinta lost $2 million in sales tax revenue. So we're overly dependent on any one industry.
It's true.
How can we broaden that?
Right.
Yeah.
And your questions are valid. I mean, what's a program? Maybe we need to decide what we want in that program So then we can go to this group and say, okay, here's what we're looking for.
Well, and some of these same comments came up, at the meeting as well, too. So they're not, unique to La Quinta here. I think everybody's asking the same question. What are we going to do? How's it going to work? Who's going to run it? So that, I think they wanted to raise the issue, see if there is interest, then we'll proceed forward. If not, then they're not going to spend the time. So I think it does deserve a study session.
And again, it coincides with the future of CVEP.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's they'll help in kind-ish.
Right.
And I feel like with Indio, if they're providing the office space, they're already doing that as an in-kind to CVEP, and now they're going to call it an in-kind for the East Valley because they own. I mean, if it's East Valley cities looking to get manufacturers in there like they did on the enterprise zone, let them do that. And then we market those individuals through all of the wonderful amenities we have to bring them to La Quinta. So, again, I'm open, not completely sold, but I think discussing it more and having somebody from county here would definitely help.
I don't know the time frame that John Benoit's got on this. I don't know. I think 10,000 is a minimal investment, that we could make. I mean, we're spending 150,000 for consultants to paint and carpet the library. We can afford 10 grand on this, but. But I think, yeah.
And it's only the beginning.
And let's find out.
Yes.
Yeah, let's find out.
Okay. All right, so study session in our future.
Study
Frank.
session. And if I may, one last comment about our sphere of influence, because obviously La Quinta has a sphere of influence, and in the future we'll have to look at it, being 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, how this function in
that's an opportunity.
That's an opportunity right now to have that great discussion, bring everything to the table, CVEP, and this, there's an opportunity here, no doubt about it. There is no an opportunity, but we need to understand what it is and what it's going to do for La Quinta, also for our economy. And what is economic development? Economic development is all those activities that are going to work together to have an output of better quality of life.
Sounds like a workshop phrase.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, one other item, Frank.
One other item just came in this afternoon at 4 o'clock. You may get inquiries from constituents about the city's website. It's been both slow and going down. And our website provider indicates that we're under a cyber attack that's attacking not only our site but other sites that they're associated with. So with that being the case, just want to give you a heads up that we're aware of it. We ask our constituents to understand that our group is working on it. What's occurring is that it's being hit with a barrage of things, and so the security system is stepping in and shutting things down, and so they're trying to work on that accordingly.
Wow. So I was just going to commend the quarterly marketing report and obviously how effective our switch to more digital and web-based clicks and views, and how we're maximizing our dollar through the digital format, because clearly there's a lot more attendance, response, activity, it seems like, at events as of late, so their ad base is working. Just got to get the website functional.
What language was that one ad in?
Oh, it's just Latin. They just they just do that for fit. It's a marketing.
I just want to know if I noticed that.
And I just had a comment as well on the police report. Thank you, Lieutenant Walton. It's just very optimistic to read. I like the quarterlies. Kind of helps us see the trends a little bit better, and finding that crime is down overall. We had a few peak incidents, but we are definitely well on our way to making it through the holiday season.
Yes. Yeah, it was a good ending of last year when you compared it to the previous year. And so obviously we want to continue that. And we're gearing up for the annual report. So that'll be that comprehensive report for next year, or for last year, that we want to share with you. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys at the VIP tour.
You bet.
The station tour.
Yes, absolutely.
Next week?
28th? 28th, yes. Anything else on departmental reports? Mayor and city council items, bless you. Mayor and city council items, Christy?
Yes. I would like, if I can have a consensus for staff, to investigate how we can have cell service on our iPads, if that's possible, what the costs are, ramifications. My little unit works when it wants to with Wi-Fi. And so if we have a consensus on that, I would, if I'm going to keep it, I would like to be able to have cell service.
I'd agree with you.
Okay.
That's a nice thing to have, so
Yeah,
you can
it
use it
is.
wherever you're at.
Exactly.
Regardless of what's around.
I'm willing to pay if it's budgetary restrictions.
Yeah.
Either that, or I know that we have the potential of having hotspots on our phones, so if we want to increase that as well too, you can turn your phone into a hotspot and plug into your phone.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll have our crack staff take a look at it.
Yes.
I'm
not recording my feelings. They know. Yes.
The other thing that I want to say is the opening for the Wellness Center just blew me away. It absolutely did. I was telling Frank today, like the holiday event that we had here, lots of new faces.
Absolutely.
People, I mean, a lot of the usual suspects, but an incredible number of new faces. And however the word is getting out, we're doing something right, aren't we, Edie? But it was, and staff, I can't say enough. It was, you did a yeoman's job. It's beautiful, but it's welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
It's not overdone, but it's very tasteful, and it's wonderful. Thank you for all the staff work. I know you were up really late on Friday night, so I appreciate it. Robert, anything?
Yeah, I would like to just reiterate what Councilmember Franklin said. I mean, the turnout was great, starting right in the morning at 9 o'clock with the Humana walk to the entire experience was fantastic. And then moving over to the Art Under the Umbrella. I mean, it was a great day. Another item I'd like to, I attended Friday at the museum. The chamber singer from the Plymouth University performed. It was over 100 people attended. Was well attended, was outside, beautiful setting, beautiful La Quinta day, and they did a great job. It was, the attendee were very, very pleased with the event, and kudos to the La Quinta Historical Society and the museum for putting it together. It was a great event. That's it.
John, anything, please? Again, just echo the wellness. The buzz is still out there from either media standpoint, people you run into, the events in Humana, the breakfast yesterday, the Women's Executive Day today. It's just people are still talking about it, and that's spectacular. I want to thank Les. La Quinta is not only celebrating itself internally, but we're also kind of taking our show on the road with the other exciting things that are happening. And we co-presented to the Desert Valley Builders Association at their lunch last week. Different things about, it was, I think, well received. We went through the commercial and retail. We went through the uptick in permits, some of the things that we have in our plans. We added our priorities from the workshop in terms of what the council and some of the input from the residents. And we've been asked to speak at the CDAR, the Desert Association of Realtors, this week, and then the BIA Building Industry Association next month. So people want to hear from La Quinta and what's going on in our city. So that's exciting to me. And of course, we're coming up on our State of the City next month, and with the chamber, and that's going to be something special that not even the staff knows about yet. They're just waiting to hear. John.
One quick comment, and kind of Frank jogged my memory on the website since we're under attack. But it occurred to me, and I did mention it to Frank, that we have our vehicles that travel around this community. There's nothing on there as far as a website that we can play, that we might direct them to. They drive around everywhere, or telephone numbers that they might be able to call into City Hall. It's great advertising. They're driving around all the time. And if we could maybe look at putting some of that information on the side of our vehicles, I think it'd be great.
I agree. That's great. Yeah. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any public hearings tonight, so with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. The City Council meeting is adjourned, and we'll move on to Housing Commission, Housing Authority.
Sure. We will call the regular meeting, quarterly meeting of January 20th to order. Roll call, please.
Authority members Evans.
Present.
Franklin.
Here.
Osborne.
Here.
Ratty.
Present.
Temporary Chair Pena.
Here. Verbal announcement.
Yes. Board members of the La Quinta Housing Authority are entitled to receive a $50 stipend as set by Section 34274 of the Health and Safety Code, not to exceed 4 meetings per month, to be paid to members in attendance at every convened Housing Authority meeting.
Thank you. There is no closed session. Is there anyone that wishes to make a public comment? If not, confirmation of agenda. Any corrections, deletions, or additions from staff?
Not at all.
From agency members? No. There are no announcements, presentations, or written communications. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
Move consent.
Motion is second. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. There is one business session. There's select the Housing Authority Chairperson and Vice Chairperson for 2015.
I'd like to make a motion to have you continue as permanent chair, John, and I would like to nominate Robert as vice chair.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote.
That was quick. Didn't give him a chance to say no.
Yeah. Motion carries unanimously. There is no study session, no reports or informational items. There are no department reports. Any chair or board member items?
Congratulations.
Not. No public hearings.
Move adjournment.
2 minutes.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. Please vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Yes, I know.
Okay, doesn't get any better than
Yeah,
that today.
there we go. Still took a little longer than I thought.
Out of town.
Okay.
I'm gonna be in New Orleans. Nancy's leaving on the Wednesday.
You're going to miss out
So,
on the party.
I know it. I really hope to be there, but I.
On which one?
You know. The 5th, the
Oh,
State
yeah.
of the City. It's
State
a
of the
great
City.
meeting. A lot of stuff going on. It's a great time to